Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. Tonight, I have a pleasure to have two good friends. Dr. Chhem, he's been appearing in the show quite regularly. And we have a new friend coming. I will let him introduce himself later on. But tonight is a bit special because we're sort of promoting a bit an event that we'll be organizing on the 15th of March. Mm-hmm. It's called the annual ANZ CDRI Outlook Conference. It's our 12th time, meaning it's been 12 years already that we've been doing religiously. And the theme of this year is about science and technology and how we can use science and technology to help develop the industry, the economy, and for that matter, how to help push the economic development of the country toward a middle income country in 10, 15 years from now. So anyway, gentlemen, welcome to the show. But since you're a newcomer, I'd like to give you a few minutes. You take your time. Tell the audience a bit about your background and about the organization you're with.
Sure, put me on the spot first as a new guy. Okay?
Yes.
Well, my name is Alisdair Creanor. I am the new CEO of ANZ Royal. I've only been in Cambodia now for 4 months, so very new, very exciting. I'm so pleased to be here, and thank you for having me on the show, Sok Siphana. It's a great pleasure. So the reason we're here today is to talk about, as Sok Siphana said, the CDRI conference, where we are going to be spending a day together talking about the importance of science and technology and how we use science and technology for the betterment of Cambodia through innovation and growth. Now that's a fantastic topic. There's a lot in that. We've got a lot that we're going to be talking about. But 3 buckets of activity. The first one is how we should be thinking about policy to promote and support science and technology in Cambodia. And we've got a great panel of speakers, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. The second session is about then how we put that into practice. So science and technology through education. So how we help educate our people so that they are able to take advantage of those technological developments and just promote more science and technology in Cambodia. And the last session, which is my session, I'm moderating this session. Again, we've got a great panel. We're going to be talking about what are those developments in technology and in science that we should be thinking about, and again, how businesses in particular are taking those and putting them into practice now, and what their expectations for the future will be. So 3 really good sessions. We've got some great speakers lined up. It's such an important conversation, Sok Siphana, as you know, that only through science and technology will we really be able to drive and leverage the opportunities that there are for the continuing growth in Cambodia. So exciting day, really looking forward to it, and I think that this is going to be a day where hopefully in the back of this we can think more about policies and some practical applications for what's happening in the world today.
Good. Well, Dr. Chhem, a bit about the background of the CDI, ANZ Outlook Conference. These are 12 years, as I said, right? But perhaps you can expand a bit why we have this Outlook Conference annually.
Yeah, thank you. So again, I'm happy to be here. The Outlook Conference is our annual conference, the biggest one. CDRI as a think tank conduct research and policy, sometimes some action research we publish when we are looking at continuing to be relevant to the needs of Cambodia through engaging top policymaker of the Royal Government. So Outlook is an opportunity to bring experts from different fields, from within Cambodia, from outside Cambodia, and engaging also top policymaker here. And the theme is also, when we select the team, we have a gathering, a special committee, consulting multiple stakeholders to see what is relevant this year and years ahead also. So we did many topics like value chain, logistics, integration to ASEAN, and we try to bring new things, and particularly the emerging changes that face Cambodia nationally and regionally. And the theme this year is about science and technology. We all realize, and the government recognize and make every effort to get the proper human resources, the right policy framework to allow Cambodia to develop its science and technology, and particularly applied and integrated technology in order to allow our country to move up the ladder from basic economy like garment, tourism, and agriculture.
Well, I would say that these are 12 years, and we has always had the support, the blessing, and the encouragement of the Prime Minister, who every single year he come to give us a keynote address, setting the stage a bit how he see the vision of the country going for that particular year. And this year is quite touching because he's flying on the same day to go to attend the Australia ASEAN Special Summit in Sydney. But we were blessed that he decided to fly in the evening and still come to honor our event in the morning. So this is quite interesting. But I turn back to you, my friend. From the science and perspective, innovation, that sort of thing, ANZ has done a lot of work in the region. What sort of I would say feedback or experience you can share that about the ANZ involvement in supporting this sort of initiative, private sector,
Yeah. Well, I think fairly early on, banking realised, generally more broadly, that technology is such a critical driver for success in banking. Because we have to be able to deliver services to clients as efficiently, as quickly, as well as possible.
Yes.
So banking's been changing for a long time. That's been decades now that banking has continued to evolve. So banks need to keep up. I mean, technology, science and technology is just critical to banks if they're going to continue to succeed.
Yeah.
So I think every bank is trying, but like every bank, no one has the right answers here. So they're trying to figure out as they go. So ANZ certainly. ANZ globally have been grasping the nettle of rights. We know we need to change.
Yes.
The question is how do we do that? So we have been investing heavily in certain technologies, particularly when it comes to some of the platforms.
Okay.
So how we deliver our services.
Yes.
But the other key part, and this is probably the most important part, which is why it's timely for our conference, is it's about people. Technology is an enabler.
Yes.
So science technology gets you somewhere, but not without people.
Yes.
So we need people that are, it's called digitally savvy, certainly when it comes to banking.
Yes.
And some of the skills that we had in the past, certainly when I was learning banking, which hopefully not that long ago, I'm not that old, but when I was learning banking, some of those skills are now redundant. Like the things that I needed to do then are no longer required. And to be successful in the future, I'm going to have to learn new skills as well. So already, some of the digital agenda that we work on, I don't understand it yet, so I'm having to work hard to get there.
Yeah.
So the real focus for the bank, and certainly ANZ Royal in particular, is we need to develop our people to then understand how we best take that technology and apply it to the benefit of our customers.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of customer, a few days ago we were together at the first ever seminar on steel construction, and it's quite interesting. And here, the group that is doing the ISI, they are your client.
They are,
and they are very successful in their own right. But see how they grasp new invention. I mean, steel construction in a developed country is quite normal.
Yep.
But in Cambodia, it's still innovation. It's still a new thing, and you can see you're on the main table supporting your customer to enter into an area that in Cambodia is still conceived as a pioneering concept. It's quite interesting.
Oh, that's. I hate picking one customer, but I've got to say,
yes,
ISI, the first meeting I had with them, I left that and I phoned just about everybody I knew to talk about who they are, what they've done, and how they've done it.
Yeah.
It's companies like ISI that give us complete belief that in Cambodia we will succeed. So we have people who are willing to grasp change, willing to try things, fail quickly, and move on.
Yeah.
And it's companies like ISI that are doing that. And I think that management team and that team at ISI are I'm in awe of them. I really am.
Yes,
and it's a privilege getting to, work with them as the banker.
Well, Dr. Chhem, you were also at the night when we had this steel conference there. But I think if you look at we take the ISI as a good example. They are young, and you multiply by thousands and thousands of the young entrepreneur, young scientists, young software engineer, that sort of thing. What is your I would say your take on the Cambodian youth now when they come to science technology? Where are they? How you feel about that?
Yeah, look, I think it's a blessing for Cambodia. This demographic window, this huge number of youth is beneficial to Cambodia if we have the right education system to provide them with skills for the future. And you mentioned two words. One is tech savvy. When you're young, you're tech savvy. I will give you a couple examples that in our daily life has changed every day, and also the fintech, the finance and the technology. So if you look at daily life, I love learning. Since I entered school, I never quit until I came to CDRI because I was at the university. And through my own profession, running a think tank, we're surrounded by young people. 30 full-time researchers, the average age is about 30. And all very bright. And when they're young, they're tech savvy, they learn fast. Early adopter of any technology, they never question, and they take risk. So that's what happened at CDRI, to look at policy, how to engage with. But we engage with the university, so I meet thousands and thousands of students. Even on the weekend, when I go to meet them, they all have that ambition that technology will allow them to make a living. And just one example how technology changed. When you talk about technology, all these new things, smartphone, smart agriculture, it's not science fiction in Cambodia, it's reality. Look at PassApp, this app. The tuk-tuk driver, particularly the young one, the new kind of a rickshaw and taxi, you can get that very quickly. We can have app like one is called Tesicho. You go to that, you can find a restaurant, and I don't need to leave my office at lunchtime. When I'm busy, I can order through that. So the technology is here. But
indeed.
So the main challenge is that the kids are born digital. I will show a picture at the conference that I went to Prairie here and saw a young baby, 18 months, a young girl. The mother was a kind of a cleaner or working on that compound of Prairie here. So low income, but yet the little girl has a smartphone, she's playing with that. So they're born digital. So, so the gap here, if they were born digital, what to do with the teachers?
Yes.
And that's the challenge here for education.
Okay. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue, on the theme of our conference, how, the link between the policy, the practitioner, and the role of us as think tank, as banks, how do we stimulate this sort of interaction, this connectivity, right? Good. Well, Alisdair, the thing about that impressed me most since I've been serving as chair of CDRI for the last 7 years, which is I think in less than 1 week, I will have finished my 7th year of chairmanship, and I will pass on the baton to the next chair. But it's ANZ commitment, this strategic partnership to work with us as think tank, to go through, this partnership, help devise it's sort of like anticipate a bit where the country is heading to, because at the end of the day, we do not unilaterally decide the theme. Sure. We discuss with you, and along the way, every year we keep spotting new trend, new challenge that may arise in the country and in the region, the world, and then we come up with this sort of like the theme of science technology. But I want to say that we as a think tank, we appreciate that support, and from your perspective, perhaps you can share a bit. You don't have to tell everything, but why you commit to support us for this sort of annual sort of like Outlook conference like that.
Sure. Well, I certainly can't take any credit for the support we've given you in the last, 12 years now. Wasn't here.
Okay.
But I think, look, this is an absolute, it's a no-brainer for me. So as soon as I turned up, we were lucky enough to go out for lunch. We talked through what the thinking was. I mean, ANZ Royal, we are, I've said in my sales pitch, we are the premier international bank in Cambodia. We have an amazing history, and we've been here since 2005 and have had a major role to play in shaping the financial industry in Cambodia. That comes with great responsibility. So we need to make sure that the things that we're focused on, not just as bankers, but for our clients, are the things that matter to Cambodia. Because our responsibility goes way beyond the banking sector. And it's only by partnering with CDRI, then we can really start shaping both, what is the conversation we should be having? What are the topics we should be thinking about? And we've got the client perspective, and then from CDRI we've got the economic perspective, the government perspective, regulator. We can bring all that together and really start making sure we're having that discussion as we think about those topics we want to focus on in the future.
Yes. Yeah. So you touch a few good things which I thought would be good to have Dr. Chhem step in, because at the Outlook conference we have a broad spectrum of stakeholders. I think from the list we always invite provincial governor. From the various province. You have academics. You have diplomats, and here I think I have to say thank you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because they're kind enough to, on our behalf, invite the diplomatic corps to come, because the Prime Minister is coming. But share us a bit, how you see in the last several years, this broad stakeholder sort of networking, if I can call, because ultimately it's all about understanding how the provincial administration think, how they see the national level thing. Share us a bit the feedback that you had from the previous Outlook.
Thank you. The Outlook conference, first I'd like to thank ANZ also. Before you came, we were wondering if we can have a continued support, and said, what is wonderful. What we learned is that we engage policymakers, and every year you have this gathering, and we realize that from our research, we make some impact. For example, look at the D&D policy, decentralization
and deconcentration,
that we have still a very good engagement with the Ministry of Interior, looking at a few strategies on how to make that successful. We did one on logistics, and during the conference, all the stakeholders, particularly the leader in the field, private sector, from government, and from academia, they thought, maybe the logistics domain is not very developed. Maybe we need a kind of at national level, a kind of committee, and then the following year, the Ministry of Transport set up a council or a national level logistic and to discuss about this issue. And CDI has been invited to that. Another one very big.
Are you saying that? Thanks to some extent, I wouldn't claim to a great extent, but to some extent, we have provoked, from 2 years ago, this national logistic thing. Now it turned out to be the government have its own national logistic committee, the study and everything, right?
Yes, just to remain humble is that that conference is not about just CDI. It's all the same. We provide a platform, and some provocative ideas, because we have the freedom to say things at the think tank. And another one is, for example, working with His Excellency Sok Siphana from the CDC, the IDP. So we have been invited to join in many discussions, and the industrial development policy actually is a frame to think about the science technology. And if I may just briefly, that now the momentum is amazing, because we have IDP in 2015, and then at the same time you have our Minister of Education who push the STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, so STEM policies out. Recently, TVET policies out. We have been invited by the National Science Technology Council from the Ministry of Planning to provide a technical assistance for them to draft the science technology innovation that is being drafted now, but still in a phase of consultation. So on all this, policy framework is important because ecosystem is one thing, vision is another. At the end of the day, the government has a major role in pushing science technology, and we need all this framework. But CDRI has been a nexus by the quality of our research and the quality mostly of our deep engagement with policymakers and the private sector like ANZ.
Yep. Well, Dr. Chhem, I think Alisdair, you're quite humble. You said, well, you cannot claim the credit for what your predecessor have done. But I thought 12 years, it's a good cycle in the Chinese zodiac, right? I think it'd be good that you have to condense, particularly every year, Alisdair, the outcome of the conference. We produce a policy, brief, a nice policy brief that we circulate to the government, to the stakeholder, but particularly, especially to the Prime Minister. I think it would be a great idea if we can compile after this conference
the 12
policy brief as I would say, commemorative 12-year nice book. As a nice souvenir.
It's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
So that's a great idea, and you can consider it's done.
That's it.
We will do it.
All right, I will shake your hand on this one.
There you go.
All right.
Celebrating the 12th full cycle.
And it's good because then, with that book, I can claim that I was part of it.
That's it. That's your legacy.
No, but it's great. I really like this open dialogue, and particularly it enable policymaker and particularly the private sector also. Because sometimes, a government to private sector, sometimes the discussion could be tense because they could see, well, you're pushing your agenda, the government is not responding or responding, but not, to meet the private sector agenda. But to have a neutral platform, it's very important because there's no tension. It's more just putting on the table what you think it is. And somebody will have an idea, and boom, we got it. So I'm going to take a short break, the last break, and when we come back, we're going to go a bit more on science and how we see the future of Cambodia with, hopefully, we can stimulate enough discussion from our next week conference. All right? Alisdair, I'm going to, rewind the video backward a bit. When you made the introduction, you sort of very nicely explained the the 3 sessions that we have. Perhaps you want to say a bit more about your session. What do you expect, out of it, I think you have some very good speakers there. And I saw the ISI is one of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
We do, yes. It should be a really good session. I think, what I'm hoping for this one is, we talk a lot, and you can be quite esoteric when you talk about science and technology, because it's such a huge subject. But there's nothing more beneficial for all of us to hear from, particularly the private sector, about what does that mean? What are you doing? What does it require? And then how do we think about, given without we following the education session, how do we think about then, if that's where we're going, what do we have to do to prepare for that? So it feels like over the course of the day, it kind of ends with a bit about where we're trying to get to. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I think the sharing of ideas amongst some of these speakers and for the audience to hear it, I think there's some really interesting topics. I think the companies are doing some really interesting things, and I think it'll be of great benefit for everyone that's there to hear about it. So yes, I'm hoping that by the time we get to that session, we'll have set up this is the how we should be thinking about getting there.
That's the word how.
Right?
Yeah.
And then this session is more talking about, well, here's why. Let's just see. Let's talk about some of the good things that are happening.
Yes.
So that's what I'm hoping.
It's interesting, the why and how. Many times we sort of spot the issue, right? We know why it happened, but sometimes it's hard to grab the how we're going to respond it, It's quite interesting. Dr. Chhem, your session, what do you hope to get out of it?
Yeah, so my session is that once you have the vision for science technology as an enabler for growth, particularly for industrialization, and specifically Industry 4.0
Yes.
is that you need people. Yeah, you need people to get there. You need students, and science and technology should be the goal of our education training. Scientists, technologists, engineers, but even all other discipline, like from the social science, from the banking, they should have a background in science and technology. So the skill gap, we know already. We know what was wrong with our system. But the last 5 years, there's a lot of effort from the various ministries, particularly Ministry of Education, to adapt to change our curriculum, training the teacher, investing in some lab there. And when you say technology and science, from the education and training perspective, you can look at two angles. Number one is how to get the skills to adapt, to absorb technology, and to be creative, to bring innovation, either as a product or a process. On the other hand, is to look at technology as a tool for enabling effective education. The classroom teaching, as we know, not only in Cambodia, it's outdated. The kids, as I mentioned, they're born digital. They use a smartphone at a young age. And don't forget, I think that according to the number, by 2020, 9.5 million Cambodians will have a smartphone. The penetration is more than 100%. 9.5 millions will have a smartphone. This is data from Untact. Yes. So all these are there. So the technology platform is here. How to invest that? But what I found in the education system, the most challenging part is to change the mindset.
In what way?
In what way is that teachers spoon feeding the kids? Knowledge now double every year, every 12 months. When we all started, knowledge double every 7, 8, 10 years. So mean that if you go to school, 10 years later, what you learn is outdated, almost outdated. So this call for another type of curriculum, and particularly look at beyond the content, certainly science, technology, and the social science, and the culture, etc. You need to provide the skills of the 21st century. And people know that cooperation, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And this is not easy. You cannot teach that in the classroom. You have to change the curriculum to expose them. But the young people are here, and my hope and my worries are together is that according to demographers, that we have a window of demography that we can benefit until 2040, 45. So 20 years, we better get it right if we want to reach the goal, that vision set by the government, 2030 and 2050.
When people talk about technology, fourth industrial revolution, automation, that sort of thing, I say, well, I'm a lawyer, I mean, how much can this technology affect my life, right? I mean, so I feel quite secure for a long time. Believe me, I'm so wrong, because now they have system that can, I think it's IBM, right? They have this special computer like mainframe that can analyze contract faster than the human. So
this is
I say it's like wow.
Not granted.
I hope. But I told my colleague, I say, hey guys, maybe in London, maybe in France, in Washington, maybe. But that computer better know how to speak Khmer, because he will have to deal with the regulator in Khmer. So I'm safe to some extent
for a few years.
For the law sector, you have big data that's coming.
Yes.
Same thing for the banking.
Sure.
And big data is not science fiction. It will come to Cambodia.
Yes.
You cannot stop that. Big data is one thing, and artificial intelligence is huge now. Very, very big. Certainly the big company in the US is pushing on that, but China is coming. Don't forget the elephant in the room is China. Baidu, I think with Tencent, Alibaba, they invest billions of dollars in developing artificial intelligence to help. And then we come to another point where some thinker of the future that artificial intelligence will bring robot, will change industry. And then you have a machine that may think better than a human. And a philosopher asked this question about technology. Technology doesn't bring only good things. Sometimes you have adverse effect.
Yes, indeed.
So the question here for food for thought is that when you have artificial intelligence, it will coming. What is more dangerous, a man who thinks like a machine, or a machine who thinks like a man? You know? So all these are amazing. I read that somewhere, but Cambodia cannot escape from that, and the kids, the young generation, they will use it. So this is not science fiction; it's a reality. You know? It's a reality.
Well, and that's why for me, from more a policy perspective, it's important that we, when we discuss policy, we project 10 or 15 years down the road. The government is currently, working on our Vision 2050. Before we talk about 2030, but we said, well, too short a time horizon, so many things happening, because within ASEAN, we are already talking about ASEAN 2025, 2030 already. So time is moving fast, right? But for us, how do we see 2050, where Cambodia will be? And I think, we want to reclaim our place back before the war. Before the war, Cambodia is considered the pearl of Southeast Asia. I mean, a few thousand years ago, we had Angkor Wat, the glory days. But I'm not saying we should go back to reminisce of the old days. But I'm saying, with technology, you say it's an enabler. To me, it's more an equalizer.
Also,
it's an equalizer.
Absolutely.
The world's flat. Thomas Friedman. The world's flat. That we can synthesize, with big data, and you can skip learning curve. Look, without technology, right? The ISI brother, if we can use them as an example, they would not be able to catch up with the world, right? But technology will enable them to skip the learning curve. And to me, our job really from this Outlook conference is to provoke enough, I would say, provocative ideas to say, okay, guys, don't think of today. Think what would be the trend of the future, and how can the government think of a very flexible policy, enabling policy? How can private sectors start to invest, ahead of time? Buy technology, grab technology. How do school system start to invest, not at university level, but at a younger age level? So I think this is quite a exciting time to provoke this thinking, and I'm pretty sure that by the time we're done with that, we probably have more questions than answers. What do you think of that?
That's well, I agree with everything you say. I think that that's why this is so exciting. I really believe, and again, new to the country, so 4 months in. My initial
you in Cambodia, you have 6 month honeymoon.
It's
you have
6
2
month
more
honeymoon.
months to go.
Okay, good to know. The one thing that struck me is when you think about it, and on this covers the entire day. In other countries, and where I've been working before, mostly it's Western, when you bring new ideas, people want to say, why, or no, I don't know, is that going to work, or this is so different. Come to Cambodia and you suggest something, people are, let's do it, let's go. So the energy and the enthusiasm and their willingness to embrace change and try new things, I think that is at the core of why we can leapfrog others. So exactly your point, I think equalizers are a great way of thinking about it. This is the opportunity. And I think the session that we're going to have gives us the chance to have that conversation about, so how do we start pushing this even further forward, which is great.
About innovative idea, people grabbing change, that sort of thing. I find that, for example, one of the greatest assets that this country has is this young generation. And again, to be fair to their parent, after the revolution, the difficult year, it's about survival. It's about survival. But what they did, and we have to be fair to them, most Cambodian parents have put money aside for their kids, for education, because mainly they regret that their generation, they didn't have that chance. Then you fast forward 5, 6, 7 years later on, this kid coming back. I spoke to the French ambassador the other day, and she said that every year there's about 600 Cambodian students study in France, right? 600, right? So with some form of support, right? But there are so many other students that She have no clue because they did not get the scholarship or the grant. They want to study on their own. See, so you see, you look at Australia, you look at New Zealand, you look at Singapore, you look at Thailand. So many of them, and they come back. The ISI family is a good case in point. They will all study abroad. The father passed away. They all came back, and what did they bring back? That exposure. They said, "Wow." Things that in Australia we take for granted. You go to France, oh, this thing's been done already. But here it's not. It's an opportunity. And this is where I see the energy.
About these young people, like CDRI we take foreign intern, and we got a student from Sweden. Last year we got a graduate from Cambridge, and also our Cambodian student you mentioned. I sit on a panel the last 2 years to select the best and brightest student to go to China to study science engineering. They top of the first promotion. They top their school. Their GPA above average is above the average of the school. So, and those people, those students, you know where they come from? Ban Tie Min Chey, Siem Reap, Kampong Thom. How do they get access to this? The key tool for success is English literacy and tech savvy. They have a smartphone. So all these kids, they can access. And one thing that I want to stress here is that we are short of resources for teaching and learning and science technology, but at least in theory, you can go to online that are free, like Khan Academy, Coursera. And my last thing, my dream is probably to start teaching Cambodian children, even from primary school, coding. And one example of a learning free coding, there's a Code Academy, there's a free online. One class of coding, they have 6 million of students. So there's a lot of free online access for science and technology, at least from the theory point that Cambodia can grab on that. The most important, the key is to change, to train the teacher to be the coach for learning and not the spoon feeder for knowledge.
That's great. Well, gentlemen, as always, 45 minutes is longer than 30 minutes, but it's shorter than 1 hour. And unfortunately, we are at the end of the program. But I just want to say, in wrapping that, I'm glad that I could get both you gentlemen to come to share a bit ahead of the conference. And I want to take this opportunity also, since I have the televised audience, to say thank you to the Prime Minister for the last 12 years, for him supporting us, with his vision, with his commitment to support an independent thinking organization like CDRI. And for me, having served 7 years, I'm blessed to have a strategic partner like ANZ Royal who believe in what we deliver. And to you, Dr. Chhem, thanks for slaving and get the thing rolling.
It's called leadership.
Yes, leadership. So I think we're gonna have fun, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a good outcome. And I'm glad that from this short dialogue, we have already produced a great idea, which is a commemorative 12-year brief of the conference. Alisdair, my friend, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Chhem, thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm not summarizing what we discussed. It's too rich. I'm just saying that I hope you will tune in. Later on as we have the Outlook conference, we will try to record it and upload on YouTube so that you can follow the discussion of what transpired. And I'm pretty sure for kids who are in Battambang, Tie Min Chey, with your smartphone, you will know what are we talking about, science technology, and hopefully you'll be the future generation of this country. So on that note, good learning and love science technology. Good night.